spoilers of Wilds of Eldraine are here, and today we're going to be going through some of the newest cards revealed from the set. I mean, to be fair guys, there are some pretty sweet ones. I'm looking forward to this. Standard needs some help right now because it is in pretty dire straits. So let's dive in to the first few cards that have been shown for this set. First off, we have Ashiok, Wicked Manipulator. Now, some of you might have seen this already. This was shown a while back now as the only Planeswalker in the set, which is actually quite interesting. You know, we're going forward, we're going to be doing, you know, only having one Planeswalker per set, which is quite nice that we're kind of moving away from Planeswalkers just a little bit. And Ashiok is a really weird Planeswalker, okay? 5 mana, okay, 5 loyalty, pretty basic for a normal Planeswalker. And then it says, if you would pay life while your library has at least that many cards in it, you exile that many cards instead. So I'm like, okay, kind of weird, paying life. It's interesting to see what things we're going to have that allows us to pay life, because in Standard right now, there isn't really much that causes us to pay life. +1, look at the top 2 cards of your library, exile one of them and put the other into your hand. So that's pretty decent, you know, a little bit of card advantage there. In -2, you get to make 2/1/1 black nightmare creature tokens without the beginning of combat on your turn. If a card was put into exile this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. So you get some good blockers, you know, little 1/1s, which aren't too bad. But, you know, again, it goes around that exile theme, which, you know, could be okay, but we'll have to wait and see. And then -7, target player exiles the top X cards of the library, where X is the total mana value of cards you own in exile. So again, that's not too bad. It's pretty good. It can go really well with the nightmares as well. On the surface, this seems like a pretty weak Planeswalker. You know, it's kind of like a build around. Like I said, we don't really have many pay life effects. It'll be really interesting to see if there's going to be any cards in this set that will bring in stuff that causes us to pay life. But we'll have to wait and see. I mean, on the surface, this does seem like a pretty weak Planeswalker on the surface. Then we had the Moonshaker Cavalry, so 8-drop, you know, quite expensive. 5 colorless, triple white for a 6/6 flyer. When it is the battlefield, creatures you control gain flying and +X/+X to the end of the turn, where X is the number of creatures you control. So this one was basically the white version of Craterhoof Behemoth. Now, Craterhoof is very cool in Commander, and this would be very good in Commander. But for Standard, it's too much mana. You know, it's too much mana, unless, like, look, you kind of want to go wide, right, with this. You want to have lots of creatures. Now, as a rule, lots of creatures in Standard tend to be cheaper, low to the ground decks. You're not going to be splashing an 8-drop. You know, it's pretty insane. I think it's going to be mainly for formats like Commander. For Standard, this is just too much mana for its effect. It's a good effect, but to have that many creatures out and not have them dying all over the place, you know, it's quite tricky. So I don't think that this will really see much play in Standard, but it's more so for Commander. Alright, so we have the Adventure mechanic back in this set like last time when we had Throne of Eldraine. Oh, there were some really powerful Adventure cards in Throne. So we have a Mythic here, Virtue of Knowledge, 5 mana, Enchantment. Okay, so we have the Enchantment side, which is if opponent enters the battlefield with cause ability to trigger, it triggers additional time. So we basically have, you know, kind of like a Yarok style ability. Okay, it's not too bad. Elish Norn as well, you know, Mother Machine. So it's okay. It's an enchantment. It might be a little bit hard to remove than like a creature, say. And then we have the Adventure, which is an instant, 2 mana, copy target activated or triggered ability. You may choose new targets for the copy. I don't think this will see play in Standard. You know, again, great for Commander. Now, these like double triggering effects, I mean, like Elish Norn, Mother of Machines, is a very strong card. It doesn't see Standard play. Sort of like niche fringe playing. Now, I played in a few decks, but it, to me, it's a build around card, and that one punished your opponent as well. You know, most people played Elish Norn not for the double triggers. It was more because it stopped your opponent's triggers. That was the main reason why you play Elish Norn. This just doesn't do that. So this would be cool for Commander, but again, not very good for Standard. Next, we have Kellen, the fae-blooded. Now, this is what the story is based around this character. 3 mana for a 2/2 human fairy. Interesting. It's a 2/2 double strike for 3. Okay, that's not too bad. Then other creatures you control get +1/+0 for each aura and equipment attached to Kellen, the fae-blooded. Now, in this one, you kind of want to just, you know, pile on loads of equipment and auras. I do know that this set does have a lot of auras and an aura theme. So that's going to be quite interesting to see. Then we have the Adventure side, 2 mana sorcery. Search your library for an aura or an equipment card, reveal it and put it into your hand, then shuffle. So turn 2, go on adventure, grab an aura or equipment. That's going to be quite handy. Then we play this guy on turn 3 as a 2/2 double striker. It's not too bad, but, you know, there's a lot of removal that can just wreck it. But then in the following turn, you know, you can slap on equipment or the aura that you fetched, and then Kellen's going to be pretty decent. So I think this does see some play in Standard. I don't know where yet, but we kind of have to wait and see. I mean, I wouldn't play in mono red, but we have to wait and see what the support is going to be for the auras, because I mean, at the moment, equipment, there isn't really anything that jumps out at me apart from the sword, the blue and black sword. But apart from that, there really isn't anything that jumps out at me straight away, but there might be something really good in this set. So yeah, Kellen's pretty decent. Mythic, yeah, maybe, probably not, but overall I do feel like this will see play. Then we have a dragon. Of course we have a dragon. We have a dragon every set, a mythic one, of course. Realm Scorcher Hellkite, 6-drop, 4/6, and it has a mechanic bargain. So basically, when you cast this spell, you can sacrifice an artifact, an enchantment, or a token, basically for a kicker, for an extra ability, right? Which is pretty decent, as I think it's a pretty good mechanic, because you're going to have lots of artifacts around, whether it's treasure tokens, whether or not it's going to be food tokens, food's come back. We have lots of ways to get rid of. That's probably the most common one. It's probably going to be artifacts. Tokens, again, you could, sacrifice tokens made from a wedding announcement, things like that. So you could do pretty good stuff there. It's 4/6 flying haste. That's not the greatest body for 6 mana. When it enters the battlefield, if it was bargained, you could add 4 mana of any color. Okay, you're already paying 6 mana. I guess you could play this for 6, and maybe you can, bargain it, and then you can get a 4-drop out there. Okay, it doesn't seem the greatest. Then you can pay 2 mana and it deals 1 damage to any target. I think this is too weak, in my opinion. I don't see 6 mana as a lot. 6 mana is a lot. We've already seen, we've got powerful creatures in Standard already, so that's a really big problem with this, style of creature. It needs to have something really, really strong. Like, adding 4 mana is not the greatest. I kind of feel like if the bargain was, let's say, it dealt 4 damage, essentially like divided how you wanted, it shows it's fire breathing, that would be pretty sweet. But, I mean, technically you get 4 mana and you could pay 2 to shoot 2 things for 1. That just seems kind of weak. I don't rate it that much. It might see play, but probably not. We got another dragon coming in. We got the Decadent Dragon, 4-drop, 4/4 flying trample. Whenever it attacks, create a treasure token. Compared to the last one, this might actually see play. A 4 mana 4/4 flyer is not too bad. It's pretty decent stats. Trample's quite nice as well. But then creating treasure tokens with attacks, kind of gold span dragon-like. It doesn't have haste, doesn't like double your mana or craziness. But it is 4 mana, and it does have an adventure, so it does have an upside. 3 mana, does require black, instant. You get to exile the top 2 cards of target opponent's library face down. You may look at and play those cards as long as they remain exiled. That's actually pretty decent. But it doesn't say you may use any color mana. Now, I guess you have to use the treasure to do that. So if your opponent's playing the same color deck as you, really same colors, that you could cast some of their spells. That's actually a pretty decent adventure. I think it's an okay dragon. It might see some play. I mean, I would probably try it on some decks, mid-range style lists with this dragon. Like I say, a 4/4 body. It's pretty decent. It is pretty decent. It does have to attack, but I think that's fine. And then we got a board sweeper. This is Expel the Interlopers. So 3 colorless, white sorcery. Choose a number between 0 and 10. Destroy all creatures with power greater than or equal to the chosen number. It's been a while since we've had a 4 mana board sweeper. That's like just destroy creatures. Like Depopulate's probably like the closest one. But then no Day of Judgment, which I kind of feel like should be in Standard, but not great. Okay, I guess like if you've got lots of small creatures, okay, and your opponent's got lots of big creatures, you could play this and keep your creatures around, get all their stuff. It seems very, very weak. We already have really good board sweepers in the format, in the form of Sunfall. Like, Sunfall's way better than this. Like, just incredibly better. Not only does it exile everything, but on top of that, you get a token, This is not the greatest board sweeper. I want them to bring back 4 mana ones. Just bring back Day of Judgment. It's not busted. It's not broken. It's pretty fair. It keeps aggro decks in check. But yeah, these kind of board sweepers are pretty weak. Then we've got Farsight Ritual, 4 mana, 2 colorless, blue, instant. It's got bargain, so you've got that sack out there. Look at the top 4 cards of your library. If this spell was bargain, look at the top 8 cards of your library instead. Put 2 of them to your hand, and the rest of the bottom of your library in a random order. So this is basically Memory Deluge without the flashback, basically. This is potential. This actually has potential. Would I play this over Memory Deluge? I'd probably not. I kind of feel like if whilst Memory Deluge is still in the format, I'll probably play Memory Deluge on my control decks. But this is still strong. It goes technically a card deeper. It goes 8 instead of 7. It's cheaper. Like, technically, you could just pay the 4 mana. You don't have to pay the 7 to use the Memory Deluge on the backside. But to be fair, you do need an artifact, an enchantment, or a token. Now, you could use Sunset Revelry, you could use Wedding Announcement for that token. Could actually see some play. Like maybe you got like a blue-white style list, Sunset Revelry, you could use maybe the Samurai token from a Wandering Emperor or something like that. You could just go bang, go 8 cards deep, grab the 2 cards you need. Actually, to be fair, thinking about it, I think if I was playing blue-white, rather than say like blue-black, this would be pretty good in blue-white. Maybe you can just play like 2, do like a 2-2 split. You remember to lose 2 of this. I think that'd be pretty decent. But I think if you're playing anything else, it doesn't create that many tokens or artifacts. I would say just stick with Memory Deluge. But this is still a pretty decent card, actually, to be fair. And then we have the Cruel Sumu Phage. So we've got a black creature, 2 drops, star, power and toughness are each equal to the number of creature cards in all graveyards. And then it has an adventure side, pay 2 mana, sorcery, target player mills 4 cards. This is a really good mid to late game creature. I know it's a 2 drop, and you may be thinking, you know, how often on turn 2 is there going to be a creature card in the graveyard? Well, I mean, on turn 2, you could mill them for 4, or yourself, and then you could play it. You know, if you're expecting a lot of creatures in your opponent's deck, then you could mill them, or you can mill yourself, you know, if you've got a lot of creatures. But this is an interesting one. This is kind of one of these things where as the game goes on, it can get stronger and stronger and stronger. And it's in all graveyards. So you could play this, and it could be probably like a 2-2, 3-3. It could get out of hand super fast. Now, there are loads of different ways where we can mill the opponent in Standard right now, and I do feel like this mills as well. That's quite interesting. Could actually see play. But, I mean, on turn 2, most of the time it's probably going to be a 1-1. Probably you can't even play on turn 2, you know, especially if you're on the play. So that's one thing to take in mind, you know, into consideration. But you never know, you know, you could go turn 1 land, your opponent goes turn 1 creature, you go cut down, you untap, play this guy, he's a 1-1. Okay. Not the greatest, but then as the game starts churning along, this guy's ticking up. There's a couple of things that you could do with this, but it could see play. I could see it, you know, seeing some play, maybe in potentially a mill style list as a finisher, but you know, has potential. So Rowan, Scion of War. So we have no longer a Planeswalker. No longer a Planeswalker. D-Spark. Black, red. Interesting. Okay, so 3 mana for a 4-2. Menace. 2 bads. Then it has tap spells you cast this turn that are black or red cost X less to cast, where X is the amount of life that I've lost this turn. Okay, activating sorcery. So again, similar to the Ashiok, it's kind of like that life loss. It's interesting. Maybe we might get... hey, who knows? Speculation here. Maybe we might get a reprint of Thoughtseize, right? Because this set's all about sleeping, right? The eternal slumber loses life. Who knows? Who knows? This is tough. Again, if there's ways to lose life consistently, then this could be quite strong. But unless we see some, I don't really see anything too crazy. Not like we have fetch lands or anything like that. So a 4-2 menace, stats are okay, you know, quite aggressive. You're getting in there, dealing some damage. But we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see what we can use for life loss. But I don't really see this being that great. Then we've got Will, Scion of Peace. Okay, so we've got blue-white. So we've got the opposite to his sister here. 2-4, Vigilance. And then taps spells you cast that are white and blue. Cost X less to cast, where X is the amount of life gained. Activating as a sorcery. So this is a lot easier. You know, gaining life is a lot easier. Decent stats, actually. I mean... this is more of a defensive creature, right? 3 mana, 2-4 with Vigilance, pre-defensive. Could you play it in humans? Probably not. You don't really gain much life in humans. But I could see you playing this potentially in a control deck, maybe. You know, decent blocker. If you want to gain life, you can gain life, you know, pretty easy. Sunset Revelry, cards like that. And then stuff costs less, which is quite nice. I don't know how strong that's going to be. We'll have to wait and see what home it goes in. But gaining life is going to be so much better than making yourself lose life. Is this going to see play? Probably. I could see it, you know, but we'll have to wait and see. But I definitely feel like this is probably easier than his sister. We've got Hilda of the Icy Crown. So 4 mana, 3-4. Decent stats. Human Warlock legendary creature. Whenever you tap an untapped creature an opponent controls... you may pay 1. When you do, choose 1. Create a 4-4 white-blue elemental creature token. Then put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Scry 2, then draw a card. I don't know how easy it is going to be to tap your opponent's creatures. I'm trying to think. You've got Teferi still. I think Teferi's still in the format. The one who loves sunsets. So that could be one. Getting a 4-4 every time you tap something and paying the 1 is actually incredibly strong. Like that's very, very strong. That's probably going to be one of the most common abilities you're going to get. We'll have to wait and see if there's actually things in this set that help tap your opponent's creatures, because we have to tap them, right? It's not like they get to attack and we get a benefit. It's if we make, you know, their stuff tap. So hopefully we get some support, but this is actually quite a cool card. You know, could be potentially like if you have like, I don't know if there's like some tap type things you can have in a control style list. This could be a really good card to have. You know, you play this, it's got a decent body. Ideally you would probably want to play this maybe with some mana up. You don't want to like just curve this out. Could see play in a human deck. You could actually have that. I believe there are some humans that actually tap your opponent's creatures, like you tap them to tap something, so you can actually get some pretty good stuff there. So yeah, could see play. Then we have Agatha of the Vile Cauldron, so 2 mana 1/1, so red green. Activate abilities of creatures you control cost X less to activate, where X is Agatha's power, so 1 to begin with. And then this effect can't reduce the mana to less than 1 mana. Okay, well, that makes sense. Then you have 6 mana. Other creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain trample and haste until the end of turn. That costs 1 less already because her power's 1. Weird build around cards. But, you know, could see some play. I'm trying to think of what stuff have good activated abilities in Standard that you want to make it cheaper by playing this. But, you know, if there is, then so this actually could be something good. I'm thinking of like the Praetors. All the Praetors have activated costs, you know, like Elish Norn and Urabrask and things like that. So you could make them potentially cheaper. This is red-green, so Vorinclex maybe. So, you know, there are some creatures that do have activated abilities. You've also got Pluchronos as well, which is also another potential. That one's triple green, but you could play it in a red-green deck to make it, you know, cheaper for it to transform. So there are different ways. Of course, you want to make sure you buff this to make things even super cheaper. I don't know how much play it will see in Standard. It might do. To me, it seems like more like a commander card. We have Talion, the Kindly Lord. Now, this was what's shown a while back. 4 mana 3/4 is a very noble flyer. So decent stats, 3/4. Especially in blue-black, it's pretty decent. Then when it enters the battlefield, you get to choose a number between 1 and 10. Whenever an opponent casts a spell with mana value, power, or toughness equal to the chosen number, that player loses 2 life, and I get to draw a card. This is actually pretty strong. Probably the most common will probably be 2. There are a lot of creatures that have a power of 2. A lot of the removal is 2 mana that could deal with it. You know, go for a throw, things like that. So 2 would probably be one of my choices to pick. You know, like I say, 2 power is pretty common. I think 4 might be another decent number as well. He is 4 mana, so, you know, you could expect your opponent to play, you know, something that's, let's say you're on the play, you play this, you might think, oh, yeah, they might play Shieldred next turn, something like that, so you might want to name 4. You know, so I think it's kind of weird. I kind of think even numbers are pretty decent. For me, I think 2 is pretty strong. I think 2 is a pretty good one. And if you do name something really good, it's a strong effect, to be fair. You know, the fact is your opponent loses 2 life and you get to draw a card is incredibly strong. So could this see play in a control list? Absolutely. Could this see play in the Dimir mid-range list that's going around at the moment? Absolutely. This can go slot in pretty well into that deck, to be fair. Because you've got Shieldred on the 4-drop. Shieldred's incredibly powerful. We all know that. But I think this card actually has a home there. You know, you could play maybe 1 or 2 copies of this in that deck, and it could do pretty well. We've got the Goose Mother. X, green, and blue. 2/2 flyer, legendary creature bird, Hydra, ends battlefield X +1/+1 counters on it. Okay, that's pretty cool. Then when it ends the battlefield, you create half X food tokens added up, and then whenever it attacks, you may sacrifice a food. If you do, draw a card. So nowhere near as good as Hydrocrisis, if you remember Hydrocrisis back in the day. But let's say you pay this for 4 mana, right? You pay 4 mana, you get a 4/4 flyer. You know, it's not too bad. You generate 1 food token, okay, because X is 2 if you pay 4 mana. And then the following turn, when it attacks, you can sacrifice the food and you get to draw a card. Not too bad. This could see play, to be fair, just for being a big scaling body. This can actually be pretty decent. Making the food tokens is quite nice, of course. Now, you could have, you already have food tokens out. There's lots of stuff that make food tokens. This card doesn't heavily rely on you generating a ton of mana and casting it massively to get the food tokens. It's any food. So that could actually be quite useful. I think this is pretty decent. You know, it's nowhere near as good as Hydrocrisis. That card's incredibly powerful, you know, back in the day. But I think Goose Mother could see some play. We don't really see blue-green used, but the ramp is really strong in the format right now. You can play ramp, so I could see you playing this. You know, you could play this as a 1 or 2 of in your ramp lists, you know, because you can generate a ton of mana, and this can get you good card advantage and some life if you really wanted to, if you want to sacrifice the food tokens and gain a bunch of life. So yeah, I could see this being played in the RAM lists. Then we have this card, the Sir Ginger the Mill Ender. 2 mana for a 3/1 legendary artifact creature, Food Knight. So 2 mana 3/1, has trample, hexproof, and haste as long as opponent controls a planeswalker. So 2 mana for a 3/1 trample, hexproof, haste is pretty savage. And then whenever another artifact you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on it, and then scry 1. Then you can pay 2, tap, sacrifice it to gain life equal to its power. So it's basically a food token. This is actually pretty strong. Like, it may sound weird, but this is actually pretty good. It's colorless. It can go in any deck. That's for starters. A 3/1 for 2 mana is an okay stat line, right? If you're an aggressive creature deck. If your opponent has a planeswalker, which, you know, we're getting less planeswalkers in the future, but right now there's still quite a lot of planeswalkers that are being used. That's actually pretty good, having trample, hexproof, and haste. And then whenever another artifact is put into a graveyard, so you could play this in an artifact deck whenever the artifacts go into the graveyard. That's pretty cool as well. There's some pretty, there's not really great artifact creatures at the moment, but I could see this seeing some play. You know, even just jam it into an aggro deck. Just a good, decent 2-drop is really nice to have. Right, and then we have some of these lands now. This is going to be a man land cycle. It's been a while since we had a man land cycle. These are pretty good. These creature lands, you know, first time we had them back in Zendikar, it was amazing. Celestial Colonnade in that cycle. I think the last ones might be, is it Battle for Zendikar? Might have been Battle for Zendikar. But this one's pretty cool. Restless Fortress. Does come play taps, of course. Taps for white and black. Then you can pay 4 mana. It becomes a 1/4. And then when it attacks, defending player loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. The stats aren't great, 1/4, but you drain your opponent. So basically, what? It's a 3/4. That's not too bad. You know, gaining 2 life as well is quite nice. You are paying 4 mana for it. This will see play. Like, whatever all of them are, they will all see play, which would be really cool. And I'm all here for creature lands. They are very good indeed. And the artwork of this is pretty sick. And the other one they've shown is the Restless Cottage. So this is the green-black one. This is also 4 mana. So, you know, the other ones are 1/4. This is a 4/4. So already, to me, this is way better. Then when it attacks, you get to create a food token and then exile up to 1 target card from a graveyard. So this is straight up better. This is straight up better than the white-black one. You know, it is a 4/4 rather than a 1/4. Okay, so that's very powerful. And then you get to create a food token and you get to exile a card. So interacting with opponent's graveyard is very relevant. Creating a food token, not only in this set, but for the new bargaining mechanic is good. And just having an artifact token you can sacrifice for life is very good. And this is a 4/4 and this costs 4 mana to activate. This seems insane. I would have thought this might have been a bit smaller, to be fair. The fact is the other ones are 1/4. Yeah, this one's definitely a lot more powerful than the previous one. So there you have it, guys. Those are the cards shown so far in Wilds of Eldraine. Some of them are actually pretty cool. I'm excited for this set. Like I say, Standard needs some help. And I'm excited. Throne of Eldraine was incredibly strong. I kind of feel like the power level of this one will be a little bit weaker just because of how powerful that set was. But so far, few good cards. The creature lands I'm really excited for. The bargaining mechanics seem pretty good. Adventure's obviously very strong as well. But that's pretty cool. You know, Ashiok seems pretty weak in my opinion. Some of these cards have a lot of build around. Now, we don't know, you know, the whole set yet, so it's hard to really judge exactly how good some of these are. For me, I do feel like the creature lands excite me the most so far, and so does Talion, the Carnally Lord. I kind of feel like he already has a home, to be fair, in Standard, in that blue-black mid-range list. So, but make sure to tune in, guys, every day as we go through all of the new cards coming out in Wilds of Eldraine. And then after that, we'll be getting into building some sweet decks. So definitely make sure to hit that subscribe button, guys, and stay up to date with all Wilds of Eldraine and, of course, Magic deck techs. Alright, guys, that is it from me in this video. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.